So first off, welcome. Glad to have you here. And first I'm going to ask you, it's really been very quick. It's been about 3 days since this whole process began. How are you adjusting coming into Denton and starting to become a part of the Mean Green?
Well, anytime processes like this go in such a short amount of time, there's a couple of variables involved. One of them would be just after the season's over, my familiarity with the great administration that's here in place already, and that part's made it exciting. To see the vision of what's happening here. And then the other part of it is this is home for me. I mean, this is family. From this area, have all my immediate family lives within an hour of here, and to know the possibility of the program moving in the direction that we hope it does, and excited for it to happen. We know this can be an elite program in the country, not just regionally, and all those things together made it a whirlwind, but also made it an exciting one.
And earlier during your press conference, you got a little emotional talking about that family aspect and being home for the first time, or not for the first time, but coming back home and being a head coach in an area near where you were from. Just to kind of explain that a little bit. You're a big family guy. You talked about that during the presser as well. How does it feel just to come back home and be in such a lead role in a place not very far from Irving, where you're from?
I think the hard part with that is once you get emotional is just thinking about all the people you've invested in and you have to leave, and then thinking about what you're going to invest in what's going on here. And that's the difficult part of this profession, right? Because you're judged on wins and losses, but it's the relationships that allow you to win. Those are the things that people believe in and trust, and then you go in and tell them, hey, I'm going to leave for another opportunity, and you try to explain it to the best of your ability that your family's there and you're making the decision what's best for your family, but at the same time there's 100% belief that we can win here, that the things are in place, because I've seen it, I've been around it, I know what it takes to win, and I've seen successful people. Dr. Smotrich, Ren Baker, Jared Mosley, I mean, those guys are basketball guys. They get it, and with guys, we know football is a priority. I mean, that's just the truth. And we live in Texas, and that's the fun part about it. But we know that basketball can be relevant, and we can be an elite program. We can do that here at North Texas.
And then going on from that, you talked about leaving those guys behind at Arkansas State, and you had a successful year with them, really turned that program around. How was that for you? I know it was hard to do, you talked about it already, but how did that also push you to learn from what you were able to do in a year at Arkansas State and bring that here to Denton?
Yeah, great question. I think first and foremost, we're going to spend a lot of time with them in the spring to set a foundation with the guys that are returning. I mean, that's got to be the priority right out the gate. That we get to know them and they know that they are a big part of what we're doing. And then to have discussion and dialogue and accountability on how we're going to move forward. And then the summer will be such a huge part of that. And that's where we forge the relationships at Arkansas State the most, because you have a lot of time in the summer to spend together. You may take 1 or 2 classes, but then the rest of it can be spent, doing retreats and coming over to the house. And the pace is always a little slower in the summer as opposed to the fall and the spring, when you get multiple classes and you're starting the semester and a lot of activities going on and games and full practices. So I just know that establishing that early is really where we were able to make the biggest jump at Arkansas State, and it'll be the same here. I mean, to be able to get to know these guys personally and for them to trust us and understand the vision that we have for the program, that will, benefit us the most. And that's how we'll be able to win, if you will, when the season comes, is to put in the work in the summer and in the spring. And that's what makes it difficult too, because you ask them to be all in, you ask them to give themselves, you have to ask them to be unselfish and to understand that the teams are more important than the individual. Just a lot goes into it, a lot of sacrifice, and then at the end, it stops. Like, it's abrupt. You lose the last game and it's over. And so that's where I don't think you have enough time to process the whole season or to appreciate it, because you go from one team and then you get another opportunity and you go from the other. Not to say that it's not a great opportunity, it's just the pace at which that happened, takes a toll on you a little bit, because it is based on relationships that matter. I mean, these guys are going to be my family for the rest of my life, And they know that, but it hurt at the time. But hopefully over time that, we can continue to build the family, and this part will be a huge part of it. I know we can be successful here. I don't have any doubt.
Mm-hmm. And then other than Arkansas State, you've had some coaching stops previous to that. You played at Baylor, you coached at Baylor. I'm from Waco. Everybody who watches Mean Green Gameday knows that already because I talk about it a lot. But the fact of being under Scott Drew and learning from his system, what are you bringing from Drew up to North Texas, and do you implement some of his, maybe his 2-3 zone or something like that coming into your game plan here?
Well, specifically, the one thing that I learned from Coach that is remarkable, one is motor runs at the craziest rate I've ever been around. So he's always involved. He's always moving forward. The best thing Coach does is no matter what adversity you face, he's always looking at a way to move the program forward. He's not dwelling on the past. He's not condemning people. He just is such a positive guy. And the other part of it from a basketball standpoint is he wanted our guys to serve each other, and he modeled that himself, right? So that you share the basketball, you play hard, not just for yourself, but for others. And he did such a great job of modeling that on a daily basis. Those are kind of culture program things. But specifically basketball-wise, that 1-1-3 that we ran at Baylor, which morphs into a 2-3, and we had different variations of it, really taught me, as much about zone offense as zone defense. I'm not a big zone defensive guy. We played a majority of man. I think it's a great off-speed pitch. I would rather it not be our regular regular defense. But like this past season, if you looked up our synergy numbers and it gave you an evaluation of our program, our zone offense was excellent, And part of that is because I got to learn from Coach all the different zone things that would work against it because we did it for 5 years.
That's true.
So that's where it was a huge blessing. I think a lot of the foundational things will be based on our defense, man-to-man, and guarding people and being tough and competitive, which is the same thing at Baylor, being tough and competitive, being great teammates. And Coach has taught me a lot as a man, as a basketball coach. And then, what it takes to really be a leader and not necessarily being what people think it is, which is, yelling at people and, being a tyrant. It's really about serving people and letting them know that you're behind them and you're going to support them, but you're going to hold them accountable and do everything you can to help them be successful.
I love it. Baseball reference with the off-speed pitch, and Baylor that's just making me happy.
It's your day.
It's my day. So kind of shifting gears.
Yeah,
exactly. Shifting gears a little bit here, talking about really the program itself. You talked in your press conference about you're not interested in being here for a short amount of time. You're interested in the long haul in Denton. What does that mean to you, being able to come into a spot and really kind of plant your roots a little bit and potentially be here for a long amount of time and really build a program, like you said, could be elite in the future?
Well, that's the hard part about our profession, is that everybody wants something bigger and better. That's just the nature of I think, of humans in some regard. I was at Baylor for 5 seasons, and I was at Midland for 5 seasons, and then everywhere else has been 2 years or less. And I say that was 4 other spots. So the thing that I think we were able to do at Baylor was go to 2 Elite Eights, 1 Elite Eight before I got there, went to Elite Eight, a Sweet 16, cut down the nets at the NIT championship. So 4 out of the 5 years we were in the NCAA tournament. They'd never been 3 years in a row. We went 3 years in a row. And you could see that you were able to build it at such a rate that was sustainable, and then when I was at Midland, we won a national championship in our 3rd year in 2007, and then we went again and lost in the championship game in 2009. So I could see how all those things kind of happened in year 3, and so that's where this is a place, because of family, and it's always been a priority to me, that you don't rush off for another job. Honestly, this is home, and so I'm close to everybody, and there's not many opportunities like this, and so that's a huge advantage from that standpoint. But honestly, when you have administration like this that really invests in basketball, even though that football we know is a priority, they're saying that this is an important part of what we're doing. You can see the support, you can see the vision, you can see that they want it to be successful over a long term. Then that gives you excitement, says this is where I want to be, because everybody has the same vision.
And then kind of coming into this program that you're inheriting now, you have some talent on this roster. You have guys like A.J. Lawson and Ryan Woolridge that are really coming off of stellar freshman seasons, and then you have some top scorers like Jeremy Combs coming back as well. I know it's been a short amount of time, and it's a lot of information being thrown at you, but what do you know about this roster that you're kind of taking over, and what do you look forward to doing with them in the future?
Well, having been in Texas for a majority of my career, I mean, I know a lot of these players because the majority of them are from Texas, you know, so you get an opportunity to know who they are. And then when you follow our leagues and our level, I mean, there's a lot of crossover games that we play. You know, we play people, and so, you know, you watch games, for example, UTA in our league, and so you're able to watch the game earlier in the year, and so you just get a chance this last season to just see parts of it, you know. But I do know that Coach Benford had a great group of core young guys that really got an opportunity to play for various reasons, injuries and different things that came up within the program, and that experience is invaluable. I mean, if you're a freshman in the program and you get to play that many minutes, you know, and then they got guys that are injured that played previously that didn't get to play, and then there are guys that transferred in, they got to play a lot of minutes. So I just know that experience is hard to replace. And so that's, I think, what's a huge blessing. There's some guys in the program that have been hurt that didn't get to play too. So that experience really does help. And that's where I say this sincerely. I think we've got the core group that can be a foundation for us to win next season. And
then kind of going back to AJ and Ryan and the freshmen, do you know anything about them individually? Have you heard about
Yeah, I mean,
those
I've
guys?
watched AJ play a lot in the summer prior to him coming to North Texas, and know people around him. And then we recruited Ryan to Baylor at the very end when I was there. And so I got an opportunity to see him play all the way up. I watched him play in the summers for 3 straight years and loved the way he played. And I hugged him and I said, who would have thought that we'd have the opportunity to be on the same team after, you know, recruiting him, because at the end of he signed late and he had a lot of different opportunities, ended up going to San Diego and then transferred back here.
Yeah.
And so when we transferred back here, I think a lot of people were wondering what we were doing, but, you know, at the time you don't have scholarships and there's nothing, you know, we could do, and this was previously at Baylor. So, you know, that part of it was neat to be able to have some relationships prior to, and to have familiarity and then some excitement because you know what kind of talent we have on our roster.
And then kind of shifting a little bit to really the facilities, you got to go on a tour today and really see what you got to work with in terms of the pit and then the practice facilities. What'd you think?
Well, I do know bare bones wise we're where we need to be, right? I mean, any place you're always trying to find a way to improve, and there's an arms race in college athletics where you need to improve. I mean, you always got to have a vision for improving. I mean, the last year in the current situation, we're always changing, you know, every week trying to find something little, even if it wasn't monumental, it wasn't going to cost a lot of money, but something we could keep getting better. So. You know, I think we've got the great structure for it. Now it's just a matter of continuing to try to improve it, and part of that is winning games. I mean, I don't think you can just come in and go that we need this, this, and this. I mean, I think our guys we've got to do a great job as a team to continue to improve, and then those things can kind of start to take care of themselves.
And then kind of going back to game plan, we talked about it for like a split second with what you learned from Baylor. I know it's still early on, but what kind of scheme do you see yourself running and implementing here at North Texas, kind of offensively and defensively?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about stats now is you can go historically and look through everything. We're going to have one of the best three-point defenses in the country. We're going to make sure we guard the arc. We're going to protect the paint, and our emphasis is going to be on the defensive end, playing with energy, doing a great job of guarding the basketball. Being a team that on offense shares the ball, that pushes it in transition. We'd like to play with pace. We've got guards that can do that. And then, you know, making sure that you're taking great quality shots. I mean, you can't take bad shots, and that usually comes down to having guys that understand how to share the basketball. And so I'd like to be aggressive. I like to attack. I like to ball screen and space the floor, and it's the way a lot of people, you know, try to play, but I think there's wrinkles that you can put in that can separate yourself as far as your pace and your aggressiveness. And, you know, scoring margin's a big deal. Taking care of the basketball and sharing the basketball is a big deal. We were #1 in the conference in defensive rebound percentage last year, #2 in the conference in defense. So I think, you know, that side of the ball is going to be a priority so you can run and play faster in transition. If you don't guard, you can't play as fast as you want to.
All right. So the hard part of the interview is over. Now I got a little bit of rapid fire for you,
Okay.
real fast. All right, Coke or Pepsi?
Dr. Pepper.
Yes, this is my man. I love it. Now, I'm going to end on that.
Really?
Yeah, that's
out?
perfect. That is awesome. Thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited for the future. Be sure you're on Twitter now, UNT Coach GMAC on Twitter. So UNT Coach GMAC, follow him up.